Welcome to the Squint Podcast. Today we are thrilled to have Jackie Jolie join us to talk about getting our light right for those we love most, our animals. She is the founder of EquiSol, specializing in the holistic care and healing of animals as an equine and canine bodywork practitioner. Through her own health journey, Jackie discovered the healing power of light and now applies that in her practice. We love our animals and love that Jackie is helping spread the message about the power of light to the people we love most, our four-legged friends. Let's take a squint. So we are thrilled today to have Jackie Jolie join us on the Squint Podcast. And Jackie is a little bit unique because she talks about getting your light right, not with humans, but with animals. And we love animals. We love anyone who loves animals. And there's so much to learn from animals. And the fact is that we're both diurnal mammals, both our dogs, our horses, our humans, and we share this earth and the sun. And what can we learn from it? So, Jackie, thank you for being here. Thank you for everything you're doing to kind of share the message of light and the benefits of light for health. So tell me a little bit about your story and what brought you here and your connection with animals and what you've learned.
Sure. It's a great connection. Thank you again for the opportunity to be on your great podcast and share the message of light for all mammals.
Yeah.
As you spoke, we're all mammals, including us humans, and that's one of my biggest messages. And I obviously had to learn this lesson as a human mammal before I could bring it to the industry that I worked so much in. So my full-time job has been as a equine and canine body worker for over 15 years. And that's basically like a physical therapist for somebody that doesn't know if that exists. So body work, massage, myofascial, stretching, rehab processes. I have a degree in equine health and rehabilitation. Always loved animals, wanted to be a vet. Life kind of took me the other direction, which I think worked out well because I don't think I would have agreed very well with the centralized allopathic system that we live in.
Mhm.
And so because of my job, I look at the horse and the dog as a whole. Everything's connected, and that made for a very holistic environment and career and industry. And that also led me to keep my life pretty natural and holistic with everything that I was learning. I strength trained, I ate paleo, I worked on horses outside, I played polo and rode horses. Like I thought I was relatively healthy and probably was to our typical Americans. So that was kind of my career. I didn't know much about light, and I certainly didn't know anything about quantum biology, as that's kind of something as a new term. Until I got Lyme disease 6 years ago now. And so I did have a tick bite. We caught it early, so I was lucky there. And because of being relatively healthy, I didn't have like neurological symptoms, but bad enough symptoms that at 35, my health was not great, very irritable, brain fog, couldn't connect words that I'd been using every single day in my career. And that was probably the biggest symptom besides the irritability that I was like, something is wrong. And my allopathic doctor that I had at the time, she was a horse client. So she was like, I'm going to test you for Lyme. Came back positive. Unfortunately, in our allopathic system, both for humans and animals, a treatment for Lyme disease consists of 3 months of antibiotics. That's it. That's all they have to offer. And so I was like, I already knew enough about the microbiome at that time. I hadn't had many antibiotics most of my life. And I was like, that doesn't sound like a good idea. So I went and did some research. I found a big herbal tincture program and protocol from Dr. Buhner. He was like this herbalist wizard. We lost him 2 years ago, but he's got lots of books out. I highly recommend him for anybody dealing with Lyme disease, or if you just want even like a dictionary of like antivirals and antibacterials from herbs. His books are amazing. I was able to heal the Lyme disease, which was great, within like 6 months of using an herbal tincture protocol instead of the antibiotics. And the reason why I decided on that is I did go back to my doctor initially and I was like, well, look, let me take that prescription. But in 3 months, if I take all these antibiotics and I come back and I still test positive for Lyme, then what do we do? And she was like, oh, well, we just put you on 3 more months of antibiotics. And so I was like, oh, so that doesn't work.
Mhm.
So I always knew in my head, like, okay, the antibiotics can always be like worst case scenario plan B. Like, let me try natural first and see what happens. And, I kind of got a lot more strict on my diet and took away some vices like coffee and things like that. And so I healed it. But after I healed the Lyme disease, my body still was left over, like I couldn't recover. And when she tested all my hormones and blood panels and all of that after we killed the Lyme disease, everything was on the floor. So adrenals were drained, cortisol was up, blood sugar was up, hormones were down. And so, of course, their solution was, well, we'll give you hormone replacements and you'll probably be on them for the rest of your life. And I was like, dang, no, that does not sound like a good plan. I was 36. And so left her office and decided to also not do that option and was starting to try to just research. But at this time, I had spent close to $10,000 with naturalists, naturopaths, supplements, vitamins. Was trying to recover. You know, I couldn't connect any information into my brain and retain it, and I was still trying to work full time. And so, actually, another client or guy that we have in our quantum biology circle, Jim Laird, he's a strength conditioning coach. He's been a good friend of mine for like 20 years. And he's what turned me on to strength training and paleo eating and walking. And he had found Dr. Jack Kruse's work on quantum biology and basically the foundation of light. And so he was like, you know, Jackie, we had everything else right, but we were missing this big component of light. He's like, I think you should start listening to some of his podcasts. So I started there. And of course, a lot of it just, you know, goes way over your head with quantum biology and physics and this and that. But the nature part of it, you know, when the truth hits us, it kind of hits us like right in our gut. And I was like, this all makes a lot of sense. And a lot of the changes are just lifestyle changes. So those are free. And by that time, I was like ready to get rid of all the expensive supplements and all the doctors and all the stool tests and all those things. And so I said, okay, I'm going to try two things. I was going to get up first thing at sunrise and walk my dogs for 30 minutes and let that be the first light that hit my eyes or body, and then try to make my nights dark. So I wasn't even looking at cold plunges or red light therapy yet or Wi-Fi or anything like that. And those are the first two things I just tried to do for 30 days because I wanted to see what would happen after that. And in 2 weeks, not even full 30 days, number one, I wasn't having the afternoon slump of like needing coffee or needing something for energy. And after my 30-minute walk, I was starving for food. Like I was hungry. And at 36, my whole adult life, I'd never eaten breakfast, but I was never getting up and seeing the sunrise either. And I was just like obliterating my adrenals with having like coffee or caffeine first thing with no food and like intermittent fasting through the whole day, which was not smart.
Which is funny. My friend just said to me the other day, I say, you know, I eat within 30 minutes of waking because I get light first and then I eat. And she said, oh my gosh, I would be sick if I ate in the morning. You know, I'm just not hungry. And I used to be that way. The thought of breakfast was like, no, thank you. And then you get into this intermittent fasting and then you think you're, you know, queen of the universe because you don't eat until 3, but then you realize that that eating moment is a circadian setting moment. As long as you're getting that light first. So anyway, sorry to interrupt, but
no, you're okay. I was exactly the same way. And it makes sense now, of course I drained all my adrenals and my immune system to fight Lyme disease, right? And so I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, something that I physiologically have not had in my body for like 30 something years just changed in 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, there's something to this. Let's keep going. And of course, I added on then the protection and the mitigation of non-native EMFs. I invested in my first red light therapy panel and started using that. And I just started noticing day by day by day within that first year of just doing better light environment practices, I felt back to normal before Lyme disease. And my blood work was also improving. And so within that first year, my blood levels pretty much came up to like optima or normal. And then since then, they only kept optimizing into the better, healthier ranges. I mean, now I haven't seen a doctor in 3 years because I feel great. But also my health just continued to optimize. So I'm now going to be 41 this year. And my brain, I tell people, works like a Ferrari. You know, I can contain information easily. I can speak in front of crowds about quantum biology and information and just spit it out very quickly. And I love having that. And that was all due to light. And so not only did I get my health back, but, you know, mental and spiritual and just the strength and durability to handle life. Like we're always going to have stressors, just got better and better. And so in that first year after that happening, I was like, oh, I have to know more. That's just how my brain works. You know, I'm very scientific, very nerdy. And so QVC had started. And so they had a certification process. And so I jumped down that program. And right before it started, I decided to take a vacation to Tulum, Mexico for 2 weeks and just get as much sun as possible and like really ramp it up. And while I was on the beach, I wasn't thinking about work. I wasn't thinking about horses or anything. Literally, I just tell people like God downloaded the invention idea in my brain of like a red light therapy blanket, like a full body treatment. Before horses and dogs. And so I came home and kind of fiddled around with the idea. I've had invention ideas before that I never really like followed through, but this was in my industry and it got me thinking. I was looking at my industry and I was like, oh, like the animals are getting sicker and sicker at younger and younger ages, just like the human counterparts, but we're all mammals. And even for horses, most people would think all horses are just out in the wild, running on huge, massive fields outside all the time. But in the performance aspect, they're not. They're in stalls a lot,
Exactly.
and don't get a lot of turnout. And then obviously our pets at home, most of them get out for what, a couple of minutes to use the bathroom and one walk a day if they're lucky, unless
Right.
you're in the quantum circle, obviously. And so
And
I
it's
was,
fascinating watching animals because since I've learned about light, I think animals are so intuitive. And I
yeah,
don't think we spend a lot of time watching our animals. And if we watch them, I mean, have you ever, come home and the dog doesn't want to go outside? Of course, they need to, do their business, but they are addicted to this light and they need this light. I mean, even if you see a dog in a car, I always think that moment, their head's out the window and people say, "Oh, do they just like the wind?" No, they want that light. They've been inside and they so desperately need to be energized. Their cells are just dying for it. And they're showing us the way because they know exactly what they need to do. And horses too. I mean, they're so intuitive.
the animal, all of them are. I mean, you can even look at if you were to go watch wild animals or even get on National Geographic and watch wild animals, they lay out in the sun when they need it. And then they're even smart enough to go, holy crap, it's in the middle of the day. It's very hot. We're going to go put ourselves in some water, or we're going to go lay under that tree in the shade. Like,
Right. And
don't
they
need
don't do sunscreen or sunglasses. They
yeah,
use nature. It's very simple. And we just need to act like mammals, the mammals that we
yeah.
are.
Yes. And even my dogs now, of course, now we've been on a quantum, healthy light environment for years now. And even my guy this morning, I was trying to do a bunch of computer work to catch up from being out of town. And he was sitting behind me, just like whining at me. I'd already had breakfast and let them out. We spent some
Right.
good time out at breakfast, but he was like, no, the UVA and the sun is out. Like I want, and as soon as I let them out, they didn't even use the restroom. They both just like laid out in the grass in the sun. So
True.
they know, and
They
they'll
know.
tell you. So yeah, I came home from that trip and kind of fumbled around looking at like, does something like this exist? Is this a viable idea? I started looking at my industry and illnesses as I was taking the QBC certification, learning the deeper science. And I was like,
Right. I
okay,
love Meredith. Meredith's amazing.
ah, she's the best. I actually met her at the very first Jack Cruise event ever, and I would just like clung to that family. We lived in the same area at the time in Louisiana, so clung to them, and they're just great. So got certified, and I actually started like getting to the point where I'm sure all of us did, like, oh my gosh, everybody needs to know about this light story. You turn into almost like a Jehovah's Witness. Like I just want to knock on everybody's door and tell them
Right.
about light. So as I started working on the company in the background, like looking at manufacturing and patent design and designs and research and development, and then I was throwing red light therapy at all of my clients and friends and family, like anybody, just to do my own research, even though there's so much research behind red light therapy already.
Right.
I also started teaching about quantum biology to humans, because I was getting the certification. And I think it gave me a good practice before doing this for the animal side, of just, I would teach at yoga studios and health retreats and farm retreats. Like anybody that would let me come talk about light, I would go and talk about it. And
And just for our listeners, when Jackie is talking about light and she's talking about photobiomodulation, and photobiomodulation is it's a modality of the sun naturally is always best. We should get outside, but short of that, um, you can use photobiomodulation. And those two wavelengths of light in photobiomodulation are the red and the infrared. So 42% of light outside has that. But if you can't get that, then she's talking about these lights, and she has a blanket, I believe, that animals can use as well. Because sometimes animals, and you said these performance animals, these horses, they aren't grazing in the wild. They are living indoor lives, the same indoor lives that, we're trying to tell people not to do. But we're actually, in many respects, forcing animals to live in an indoor life that they're actually not designed for. So this is really exciting that you can kind of help them in kind of their new modern environment, if you will.
oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, even the talks I would have about light was really just, we called it Light Shapes Life, and it was just teaching humans
I love
quantum
that.
biology, light, water, magnetism, all from a beginner standpoint, and all about like it's all free. Like this information is totally all free that you can go out and get this from nature, and no device ever can replace the sun or nature or your light and dark cycles. We just
Yes.
luckily have companies that can help with that. So yeah, I started the company, got everything done. We actually launched a year ago in August of last year. So I've stopped a lot of my like local human talks and now advancing obviously to dog shows and conference shows, but same idea, statistics show that us human mammals spend 98% of our time indoors. And so if we're doing that, certainly our animals are also doing the same. And unfortunately for us humans, we've just forgotten about light, right? We've had light bulbs and we've had flashlights and we've had LEDs and computer screens. And so it's just been so normal for us to have those conveniences and not realize that they're actually causing damage to us and now also causing damage to our
Yes.
animals.
Yeah.
And so now when I talk about it from the animal side, us as a company, even though yes, I sell a product and we can get into the photobiomodulation, we will always teach, and we're about to start our educational process. Nature is free and you can just get your animals outside more and you will fix 98% of their problems,
Right.
mental, physical, behavioral, all of that kind of stuff, just by getting them outside for fresh air and sunlight and grounding,
Yes.
because that's what they would have had out in the wild. And if you look at the statistics, you can already see nature versus nurture, even for the human side, but it's even more prevalent because animals get studied so much.
Mhm.
You
And
know, on the
what are the studies saying about animals and sickness? I mean, I am, I don't, I do read some of the data and but I am observing even in my own animals, my friends' animals. It seems like everybody keeps saying, "Oh, my animal's sick, my dog has cancer." And I'm kind of thinking, what is going on? And
and
meanwhile, at night, when I'm saying, block the blue light at night, I have my blue blockers and my animals are sitting there with me watching this same show, and I don't have blue blockers for them. So I'm thinking, wow, these animals are experiencing the modern life of humans, and ultimately they're going to succumb to the same things that we are. So what are you seeing in the research?
Yeah, so statistics on the human side, for example, show 1 in 3 of us are going to get cancer.
Mhm.
Well, on dogs, it's also 1 in 3. In cats, it's 1 in 2. Now, what's interesting with horses, and I don't know why nobody has put these two things together because it's pretty telling. Cancer does happen in horses, but it's so rare that there's not even statistics to say 1 in 30 or 1 in 50. And I
Wow.
sit there and I go, well, why? Like,
Grounding?
we're all mammals, right? But if you do think about it, even horses that are, let's say, stalled most of the time, they're still going to predominantly have a more light and dark cycle and also be more grounded and in fresh air than the rest of us. And I know that some people would be like, oh, but they're vegetarians. No, performance horses also eat crappy processed food. They probably have city water that has fluoride in it. They're also getting over vaccinated like the rest of our animals are.
Mhm.
And so that kind of environmental stuff is all the same. It's just that they're actually technically outside more. You don't have you don't have your horse on the couch with you in Wi-Fi and not
Right.
down into the earth. And nobody has looked at that question of like,
That's
how come they
fascinating.
don't. It's very telling, very telling. We also, as far as like metabolic conditions, in the human side, we have where almost 80% of the population is at least pre-diabetic. And then I think it's like 60% is overweight and diabetic. And so in our animals, it's very similar. About 50% of dogs are overweight. Cats are 60%. They stay in a lot more than dogs do.
Mhm.
And horses are somewhere around like 25, 30. Again, lower because they're moving more and they're outside with light a little more than our indoor animals. If you go out to the wild, tell me if you see any obese horses or coyotes or wolves or dogs or cougars or lions. Like it just doesn't happen. And
And same is true for humans. I mean, we have a major diabetes problem, and we have, everyone is obese, and everyone is saying it's a food problem. It's a light problem.
light
We
problem.
have a light problem.
We have a massive light problem, and so do our animals. And so, this is going to be our biggest mission, really, of the company. Like, yes, we provide a solution, and maybe that can segue us into what photobiomodulation is and what that doesn't works. But we want to actually educate and empower the owners because that's how we create change. And luckily, sometimes on the animal side, because of the industry I've been in, owners will spend time and attention and money sometimes on their pets more than they will themselves.
That's true.
So if I can bring the education in to help the pets, I'm hoping also a sneakily addition to the company will be like, hey, hopefully those owners sit there and go, but I'm an animal and I stay inside all day underneath all
Right.
these lights and I get a headache under the fluorescents and I'm diabetic. And so
Yes.
that is our larger mission, and to bring that on a global scale. So we have a lot of work to do, but I'm very, very excited to do so. And I do realize with bringing this product around that the modern world isn't going anywhere. You know, there's still going to be people that like have to have a job and have to leave and their dog has to stay inside their house, or there's lots of animals right now that are still performance animals or animals that have arthritis and cancer or some type of illness that we can still help now, because I still realize in my own healing journey that red light therapy was probably one of the better biohacks or addition that I could add to my light environment that really boosted the best ROI. You know, it's non-invasive, you can't overdo it. And I truly felt really good receiving the therapy and the treatment. Again, there's over 7,000 scientific articles behind red light therapy, or quote unquote photobiomodulation, which is the scientific term. Lasers are what's been around originally. Those were created in the late 60s. They're still around. They work phenomenally, but they have a lot of limitations, especially for like a personal individual or for a personal pet owner or horse owner. They're very, very expensive. You're talking $20,000, $30,000 and up. So most people can't get their hands on that. Number two, they are so strong that you can actually cause damage. So I've seen somebody that doesn't know what they're doing use a laser and burn through tissue and cause like permanent damage. You have to wear protective goggles. You can only do an isolated area. So lasers work and they're great. And they're also quote unquote red light therapy because you're using a coherent beam of red light in the same wavelengths that you can choose. However, it's just very strong, expensive, and just limited in access. And so LEDs were created about 20 years ago. You know, we have them in our flashlights and our car lights and our home lights. And you can capture any wavelength that's measured of light. And so when we talk about wavelengths for people that haven't really heard this topic before, any color from the sun, like when we were in biology school as a kid, we learned the full spectrum, which was Roy G. Biv, right? Red,
Right.
orange,
Right.
yellow, green, violet, right? So each one of those colors just comes at you with information. And the way we measure that is in nanometers, and that's a wavelength. And so each blue wavelength, red wavelength, orange wavelength, it has specific instructions to whatever living thing that it's hitting. So that can be your plants, your tree, your flowers, you as a body, your animals, to tell the body to do something specific. And so we'll just kind of focus today, obviously, on red light therapy, but obviously, as we learn about quantum biology, all the spectrums from the sun are beneficial, and our bodies and our eyes need all of
For
them.
sure. And that's what's interesting to think because a lot of times our animals have this kind of morning evening moment, right? We have the morning moment where we feed them, they go outside, and then the evening moment. So they're getting red and infrared, but they actually are missing UV light, which is really fascinating to think that they're just completely missing that spectrum of light potentially, you know.
And what do we build during our UVB exposure? We build vitamin D, which helps our immune system.
Right.
We build all of our sexual hormones, which have to do with infertility and longevity. And
Yes.
we also build our melatonin by getting exposure to UVB. And melatonin, not just your sleepy hormone, it
Right.
also increases the ability to have your apoptosis and autophagy, where you actually kill cancer cells and repair at night when you sleep. So if our pets are lacking that as well,
Right.
and in the vet science,
And then
they'll
they're
kind of,
and then they're not getting dopamine either. I mean, like we
yeah.
have our lazy pets, and it's really fascinating. Like
Oh, yeah.
how critical that full spectrum light is to any mammal of any
Yeah.
kind.
I just did a podcast with Dr. Kelly Ritter, who she focuses a lot on like anxiety and mental health
Yeah.
disorders. And so we even talked about that with pets, because there's a lot of pets that will have aggressive issues or anxiety issues or
Yes.
separation anxiety, or, issues where they're tearing up your house and they can't settle down.
I mean,
And
there's CBD for animals all over the place. I go to the farmer's market and it's everywhere. And I mean,
But a
what's
lot of times
happening?
these dogs are getting given high levels of sedatives to just keep them in a robotic state like the humans, or they get put down because if they turn aggressive, they don't know what to do. And so now
It's just
thinking
so
about that,
sad if they could actually just get outside, get in light, and live more connected to nature, they wouldn't have so many of these problems.
yes, 100%. So That's definitely our biggest mission is the education there. If you want to tap into kind of just photobiomodulation, like I said, the lasers existed, LEDs came around to where we can capture certain wavelengths of light, and then it's much less non-invasive than the laser, but just as effective. And actually, out of the 7,000 scientific articles that exist, most of them are done contact method, which means on the skin, either if it was a human or an animal model, and then also at very low level light. So that means anywhere from like 5 to about 40 joules per centimeter squared, which is also just the measurement of how much we're dosing the body with light. And
Mhm.
so, we kind of start to see now, especially with the American mindset of like a little bit of something is good, so
Oh,
maybe a whole lot of it's really good.
right.
And so you see these panel companies that are like, our panels are the strongest, and we're going to hit you with like 100 joules per centimeter squared. It can be too much
Yeah,
for
we're
us.
not designed for that either.
No, and then our pets are way more sensitive than we are.
Right.
And so, I've even seen pets kind of avoid or they'll stay further away from the panel. They still are attracted to the red light because
They
they're like,
are. It's so
right?
amazing. My cat loves the panel.
Yes, they're so good. But again, on a therapeutic dose, if you actually had like an injury or a disease or an illness occurring, you're probably not getting a therapeutic dose from a panel just because us as humans and animals, we absorb, but we also reflect light. That's why, like, humans are told you have to be at least 6 inches away from a panel to get a therapeutic dose.
Right.
Well, animals also have a coat of fur that you have to get through. And if they're black and if they're thick, you have a lot that you need to get through. And so with our products, everything is a wearable product. And so it would actually go on their body to be able to get the light perfectly absorbed with the deepest penetration absorption rate that we can get. As well as we included 5 wavelengths in ours. They're wireless, so we don't have to worry about any non-native EMFs. And the different wavelengths we've included are both red and near infrared. So kind of when you brought that up earlier about the spectrums, your red wavelengths are going to range anywhere from like 600 to close to like 750, 780 nanometers. Your
Mhm.
red is going to be very much like your superficial stuff. So like your skin wounds, eczema, itching, allergies, fungus, bacteria, hair growth, all that kind of stuff is going to be all your red wavelengths that you want to use for that surface level. It penetrates up to about 10 millimeters in the skin. But your infrared, which there's 2 layers of infrared, it will penetrate up to 50 millimeters into your skin. So that actually
And
goes.
that's like an 850 wavelength,
Oh,
right?
well, so you have 2 different ways of infrared. So you have a near infrared and you have
Right.
a far infrared. So your near infrared is going to run from about 800 to about 1200 nanometers. And then your
Mhm.
far infrared starts around 1300 and it will go all the way up to like 3000. Now, your far infrared is like what you would think of like your saunas. It creates an actual thermal effect of heating in the body. And for us humans, to go and sweat and detox, that's really good. When you are using something that creates a thermal effect on soft tissue injuries and soft tissue, you want to make sure that you don't overheat tissue and organs. And so you want to be very careful if any of your red light therapy products are creating a lot of heat because that should not be the case. Red light therapy does not include any type of thermal reaction. So in
Right.
our products, we have red and we have near infrared, which near infrared creates no thermal effect. It does increase circulation in the body. So after ours are programmed for a 15-minute treatment to give a 10 to 12 joules per centimeter squared, you might feel like a very slight warmth to the product or to the body after, but it's just from circulation of the body. There's no like hot heatness. You should never feel that from your red light therapy panels or products. If
Right.
you do, they're doing something wrong or it's from Amazon or whatever, there's
Right.
definitely qualifications there that you need to check out. Um,
And you
and
shouldn't be doing it at the same time. You shouldn't be doing light therapy and sauna at the same time, right? I mean, this is what I've heard is that you should separate the lights. So if you're doing
I don't
photobiology,
agree. I don't agree with that. It depends
oh no,
on depends on
but
the
you
case.
said you don't want to be heated up.
Right.
You're
Like
saying the
you
light
want
shouldn't
to,
be heated. You shouldn't have that thermal heat up. You should be,
if you're outside in the sun, you're gonna get heat, right? You're
of
gonna get
course.
you're getting red, near infrared, and far
Yes.
infrared, right? So
Right.
that is natural to us. But we also know if you bake outside all day long and you're burning up, your organs are burning up. So you're gonna get out of the heat, correct?
Right.
And you are going to a sauna and you do 15 or 20 minutes and you get to the point where it's like, whew, okay, I'm too hot, I gotta get out.
Yes.
You know the difference. The animals out in the wild, they know the difference.
Exactly.
If you get a product that's heating up and you're not educated on what you're doing and you
But
have
you're
a
saying if the actual light, if you're feeling that heat, it shouldn't be there. Yes.
Not for red light therapy devices. I
Right,
think it's okay to combine the two. A lot of saunas now will combine just a red light to
right,
shine on you instead of a blue light.
right.
That's perfectly fine. You would get that out in nature. So I'm fine with that. But if you're buying a red light therapy device and it is heating you up, it's not a good device. You
Okay.
should not be having that because it's you can overdo it for sure. It's a big
But
risk.
infrared light in nature, I mean, if I'm walking out on a fall day and I'm in jeans and a sweater and
Mhm.
I'm getting really hot and I'm saying, oh my gosh, it's like it's too hot. I wanted to get in my jeans and sweater mode before I'm ready. But
Yeah.
that heat, that light is infrared light
Yeah.
that's heating you up.
Yeah, and it's both near and far
Right.
infrared. Absolutely. You're
Right.
going to get all three if you're out in nature under the sun, for sure.
Right.
And you already know, hopefully, when not to overdo it or to stay out in it,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Your man-made devices, that's just where we have to be very careful that we're
Sure.
using, selection there.
Right.
Um,
And in terms of targeting, did you say, I know kind of the red, there's, different wavelengths for wound infection versus, kind of muscle issues or, post-workout, that type of thing. And then there's also kind of deeper to bone level. Is that the far infrared
Mm-mm.
for
Near
which
infrared will actually go 50 millimeters. It'll
it
go through
will? Okay.
clothes. That's why it can go through the fur coat as long as it's on that contact method.
Okay.
And then there are different wavelengths that target potential areas in the body as well. And I think that's why it's best to also find a product that combines both red and near infrared because you're going to get that out in nature and you're going to have a better
For
synchronistic
sure.
effect for absorption and penetration.
Right.
Because there's some products out in the market that only do red and only do near infrared, and they're both going to do something. But I
Right.
think you will get a much better beneficial full spectrum, absorption and penetration if you have it together synchronistically.
For
And
sure,
so,
as it is in nature, because I always say, the sun is perfectly calibrated. You don't
yeah,
have to play, you don't have to worry so much. It's perfectly calibrated with these wavelengths. And no wavelength works by itself. They always work together. Red is always, I mean, even at sunrise, red is, combined with blue, green,
yeah.
infrared, they all work together.
Yes. Everything that's been on the market for a long time, and it's really just come to be that way because they found something that worked and then kind of just like left it alone. I was like, okay, well, that works. Let's not research anymore,
Right,
at least over here in America. And so initially it was the wavelengths of 660, which is your red,
right,
and then 850, which is your near infrared. And they do work. And that's what's been in most products for the longest time.
right.
And we include both of those wavelengths in our products as well. But I studied a lot from Tina Carew, which was a
Yep.
Russian scientist that did a ton of photobiomodulation research.
Yes.
And she found other ways. She just started practicing with other wavelengths as well, even in the green and blue spectrum. And so there was other wavelengths that could do some really incredible things. So we also included 630. So in our products, we have 630, 660. 810, 830, and 850. The
Okay.
810 is really the interesting one that not a lot of other products have in it. It can actually pass through the cranium. So there's a ton of doctors like neurosurgeons and neurophysicists and physical therapists that are working with kids with like autism and like disabled bodies and paralyzation, and they're getting people to walk again and talk again just by using 810 in the brain.
Wow.
And so it can cross through the cranium. So if it can do that, it's definitely going through your vertebrae, to your nerves, to your bone marrow and tissue. And so our biggest share story and miracle story was Marley. He was a paralyzed dog. He'd been paralyzed for a year, and the owner had spent like over $10,000 on diagnostics and treatments and got a wheelchair made and was wheeling him around. And nobody could find the problem, nobody could fix it. And she started to use a laser at a vet for a second opinion. And it was like a 30-minute session on the neck. And it was like $250 a pop. And so she couldn't afford it. She did like 3 sessions, but his little paws had started to uncurl with those 3 sessions. But of course, who can afford $250, right, for a 30-minute session? And so we got connected through another quantum friend, and I sent her a blanket to try. And I thought, okay, he's been paralyzed for a year. The laser worked, but they're stronger. I'm thinking 30, 60 days before we see, improvements. He was standing in 5 days. He was taking his first steps in 10, and he was walking, although stumbling and not for long, at 14 days.
And what
Um,
wavelengths were you using?
all 5 of
All
those.
five. Okay.
Yeah. So
It's
the
interesting because
810,
I interviewed Michael Hamblin, who was at Harvard Medical School for 25 years. And he was, I think he's more, 660, 850, 660, 850. But, you know, it is interesting to know that it seems like our best strategy would be to try to get as close to full spectrum sunlight as possible, right?
Yeah. I'll never downgrade the 660 or 850 of the other products because it works. Like our leg
Right.
wraps and bell boots, the way they have to be made for horses, we can't put any additional wavelengths in them. And we have healed suspensory tears in 30 days, bone fractures in 45. Like the healing is basically 50% faster, even just with those two wavelengths. However, especially dealing with animals, you do have a coat of fur and you do have some deeper structural items going on. And so adding the 5 wavelengths, I think, just creates a more optimal choice. So theirs works, ours works. I just think ours is a more optimal decision with having the other wavelengths involved. You get a deeper, better penetration. But yeah, that dog was
Did
walking.
humans use your blanket or is it, yeah.
Yep. It's a big selling product at the end. People are like, investing. And I'm like, you can use it too. And then it's like sold.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it's perfectly safe for all mammals. You could get a dog blanket and use it on a cat, use it on yourself, use it on the kid. You could get a horse product and use. I have clients showing me like helping their neck soreness all the time with like a
That's
bell boot.
right.
So
And
it's all
how are the electric fields?
nothing. So all of ours are
Nothing.
wireless. So
Okay.
I'm sure that's something you've already been teaching your followers as well. We have a natural electromagnetic field from the earth, which is what grounding is so particular and important for.
Right.
But we have all of these non-native EMFs in the house, like Wi-Fi and smart
Yeah.
devices and phones.
Yes.
And so the animals are very, very reactive to that and sensitive to that as well. And so even when I do hear of these people having behavioral changes in their animals, I'm like, turn off your Wi-Fi. That's the first thing I ask them to do over anything else and just see if something changes.
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff to fight environmentally, but the light and the Wi-Fi, I think, is the easiest to just change and start helping them. But yeah, all of our devices have a lithium rechargeable battery in it. So it's wireless for safety reasons, to be convenient, rechargeable, and then there's no non-native EMF. So there's nothing creating an inflammatory field around the animal either.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exciting. And these case studies, any other case studies? I love the case studies.
Oh gosh, I mean that was really our hero journey for sure. A lot of our horse product ones have done great. Suspensory ligaments or bowed tendons on race horses are probably some of the most damaging and most common injuries that these horses have, and usually it's a 4 to 6 month full rehab process. And we're healing some of this stuff and sending some of these horses back to work in 30 to 45 days.
So are high performance horses, race horses, are they implementing this as well?
We are getting it started. We are getting
Yeah.
it started. Another reason I'm back in Kentucky as well. It's racehorse capital of the world.
Right.
I've got a couple of barns that are using them for a lot of different reasons. But yes, once we can get the education there, I think it'll really, really grow a lot
For
because they're
sure.
getting hit by a lot of regulations and registrations now too. And so they're needing to find other ways to help the horses heal and recover, and also have like red light therapy has a performance enhancement effect, and we have a full
Sure.
horse blanket in development as well. So I'm excited to see if we can help racehorses run faster,
Wow.
or jump higher for the jumping horses.
And
uh,
just be healthier in general. It's sad, they have a rough life and they're put through a lot, but if they can kind of be as healthy as they possibly can given those conditions,
Absolutely.
it's
I
worth
mean,
it.
the hill that I'll always die on, of course, even just from my bodywork business, I really hope to preach and teach to the crowd of we do need to get them outside more. We don't need to be riding them as young. They don't need to be stuck in stalls all the time with low lighting or too bright of lighting 24/7, with no
Right.
nearness.
Do they
Um,
keep bright lights on them at night while they're supposedly, oh,
yep.
yikes.
There's usually night checks.
Imagine the performance of these horses when they get in circadian rhythm. I am betting on that horse.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
100%.
And
That's why
and they're seeing the
horses.
modalities in sports too. I mean,
Mhm.
there is data. I mean, whoever it was, the Chicago Blackhawks and all these things. I mean, when you're implementing circadian rhythm and when you're implementing light routines and mitigating EMFs, all of a
Yes.
sudden, things start clicking. So
Oh yeah, I mean, Cruz and other people have shown a lot of the athletes that come from like Florida or South Carolina. They all seem to actually have better performance and lower rates of injury
for
because
sure,
of them being in such good weather all the time.
for sure. And
So,
and yeah, Usain Bolt, I mean, just
oh
the
yeah, well,
results.
he's
I mean,
kind of a freak of nature already, but like yeah,
yes, but it goes to say that being in a, high altitude UV environment, it's very powerful for performance and how your body runs. So,
Absolutely.
well, I am so excited that you took the time to speak with me. It's just what you're doing is amazing, and I always try to help people and talk to people about getting their light right. And sometimes you're exactly right. People do love their animals more than them, and sometimes if we can maybe start with the animals, then maybe the humans will follow
Yeah.
suit. But they are so combined in our environment, so it's really important to be cognizant of how much, artificial light our animals are getting and, how much indoor living they're actually living and how important it is to just get them out.
Yeah.
Um, so, well, this was such a treat. Thank you so much. I love what you're doing and I want to share it with everybody because it's just amazing work and keep it going and keep me posted on all things that you're doing because I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
And
Thank you so much.
enjoy Kentucky.
I am. Thank you so much.
I love it.
Yes, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate the conversation.
Of course. Great to meet you.
Great to meet you too.
Thank you.